Okay, it's fight week. It's fight week for the unified welterweight champion, Lauren Price, who will be taking on her WBA mandatory challenger in Puerto Rico's Stephanie Piñeiro, a fight that we've talked about once or twice already. Both fighters are unbeaten fighters. Both fighters fight out of the southpaw stance. One or two things in common. What separates them, I'd say, is speed. Lauren Price's speed, agility. She's very quick, and I think Stephanie Piñeiro will find it very difficult to land meaty punches, hard punches on the unbeaten Lauren Price, who sports an unblemished record of 9 wins with no losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts. To Stephanie Piñeiro's 10 wins with no losses and no draws, 3 recorded knockouts. You could argue that power, the edge in power, might go to Stephanie. Not by a lot. Only marginally, but the edge in power might go to Stephanie, with the edge in speed, agility, going to Lauren Price. Better quality competition, too. Lauren, comparatively, has been in there with the better fighters and the bigger names. Former undisputed champion Jessica McCaskill, former unified champion Natasha Jonas. You could give Lauren that edge, too. And the fight is happening in her neck of the woods, so she will have home field advantage as well as being the house fighter. This being a boxer show, Lauren has that edge, too. Younger than Stephanie Piñeiro by a few years, Lauren is 31, where Stephanie is 35, even though Stephanie doesn't really look it. Stephanie was last in action in November of last year against former champion Ana E. Esther Sanchez, who she decisioned over 10 rounds. In what was her second fight last year. The first was in September, the second was in November, so going into the Lauren Price fight, she doesn't have any ring rust or cobwebs she needs to shake off. The same cannot be said for Lauren Price, who has not seen action in about a year's time. The last time we saw her was in March of last year, opposite the ring then champion Natasha Jonas, who she dominated. It's one of the few things that counts against Lauren Price in this fight, that it's been such a long time since she had a fight, but she's got so much else working for her. But this one thing will not be enough. Not enough, in my opinion, for Stephanie to unseat her as welterweight champion. Fight's going to be broadcasted live on BBC in the United Kingdom, and I believe that we can watch it here on DAZN in the United States. I'm not expecting any surprises. I expect that Lauren Price will win a points decision. The hope has got to be that Stephanie can at least make it interesting, make it entertaining for the paying public. Let's hope. Show that comes to us as part of a very busy weekend of boxing, because running parallel to this show will be the Brown versus Ducar fight promoted by Matchroom. That's on Saturday. On DAZN. Then that following Sunday, Carolyn Dubois and Terry Harper will be unifying titles with each other via ESPN+. ESPN in the United States, Sky Sports in the United Kingdom. That same day, Zuffa Boxing will be doing their 5th card of this calendar year. So as stated, it's a jam-packed weekend of fights, fully loaded. There's going to be a lot going on. And I do expect Lauren Price to remain unified welterweight champion beyond this weekend. The story is she's supposed to be getting married in May. Then maybe she makes a comeback in the fall or winter months to take on Michaela Mayer, who recently joined MVP in what would be an undisputed welterweight title fight. No surprises this weekend. I expect Lauren Price to win. In men's junior middleweight news, they went ahead and made it official. Ennis to challenge Xander Zayas for junior middleweight titles in late June. Now it's official. Matchroom Boxing announced on Monday that Zayas will defend his WBA and WBO junior middleweight titles against Ennis on June 27th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, live on DAZN. The Barclays Center's capacity for a boxing match is a little over 19,000, just short of the big room at MSG. This past Saturday, Zayas and Ennis both posted on social media that they had agreed to their next fights and exchanged a brief back and forth. Zayas has quickly ascended up the ladder at junior middle, nabbing the WBA and WBO titles in his last 2 fights. The 23-year-old from San Juan, Puerto Rico, won the vacant WBO title with a unanimous decision over Jorge Perez last July, then added the WBA belt to his collection in his last fight with a split decision over Abbas Baru, who held the WBA title on January 31st. Zayas is currently boxing's youngest unified champion. It's also important to note that he only ended up fighting for the vacant WBO title because Sebastian Fundora is the one that vacated it, upon being ordered to satisfy his mandatory in Xander Zayas. Boots Ennis is a former Unified Ring Magazine IBF and WBA champion at welter. The hard-hitting Philly native has fought once at junior middle and won by first-round knockout against Luis Malima this past October. Plans were originally for Ennis to face Virgil Ortiz, the ring's number one ranked junior middleweight, on April 18th, but Ortiz's promoter, Golden Boy, obtained a temporary restraining order to halt the bout from happening without their involvement. An arbitrator must rule by September 2nd on whether or not Ortiz will remain under contract with Golden Boy or become a promotional free agent before his deal expires in August of 2027. This entire ordeal is going to keep Virgil on the bench for the entirety of the summer. Hopefully he can squeeze in another fight in the fall or winter months once this is resolved. Back over to Xander Zayas and Boots Ennis. You guys know that I'm a big skeptic, and I didn't think they were going to deliver this fight. I didn't think it would happen as quickly as it did, so I'm taken aback by the speed at which they were able to put this fight together, I guess. That's the difference between trying to make a fight with Xander and trying to make a fight with Virgil. Xander stands on business. He's a serious operator. Where Virgil just seems to have a lot of wannabe business guys like Rick Merrigan mucking up things and messing up fights. We can open up that can of worms, go into the intricacies of what happened and what didn't and why, but for what? There's always a reason something doesn't work out for Virgil Ortiz, isn't there? There's always a reason for it. Check sense what I just told you. Maybe that's the difference between trying to make a fight with Xander and trying to make a fight with Virgil. When it's Xander, he's serious, he's gonna stand on business. Only 23 years old. Already a unified champion, where Virgil Ortiz has yet to fight for a full title. Is Xander ready for this? I think the answer to that question all depends on how good you think Boots is, or how good you think Boots isn't, because Boots is not proven so much as a welter and so much as a junior middle that he's a lock to win this fight. He's not the Crawford of the shit, if you know what I mean. This is not like when Terrence Crawford moved up from 147 up to 154 to fight Madrimov. When he did, he was the betting favorite because by then he was already a very, very accomplished fighter, one of the most accomplished fighters in the sport, and Boots is not those things. Is Xander ready for this fight? It's hard to say based on everything we don't know about Jaron Ennis. There are still lots of questions that need answers when it comes to that fighter. Didn't really see everything he could do in the junior middleweight division because he's only had one fight there, and it was against some nobody in Luis Malima. How much are we supposed to read into Jaron Ennis knocking him out in a round? He was a nobody. He was nothing. Xander Zayas, being some years younger than Jaron Ennis, matters, but it also matters that Xander's got more time in at this weight than Jaron Ennis does. Xander is more accustomed to fighting junior middleweights than Boots is. Boots has largely benefited from a size advantage as a welterweight, but how does he fare at junior middle? We don't know because he ain't been there that long. Xander has, and I would even argue that Xander's quality of competition is at least marginally better than Jaron Ennis's. Marginally. I'd say the best guy that Xander Zayas fought was a Boss Baru, compared to the best guy that Boots Ennis fought, a Montestanionis. Baru can beat Stanionis. Does that mean that Xander Zayas can beat Boots Ennis? It's a 50-50 fight. It absolutely is, because Xander and Boots are both boxer punches. They have their differences, their subtle nuances, using the same base style in different ways, but they're both boxer punches. Both unbeaten, both are good to draw a crowd on the East Coast. Boots in Philly, Xander in New York.
So smart. They know how to match their fighters. They know how to put them to become champion, to win a vacant title, to unify. They've done it with Xander. I think they're risking this one for Xander, because I'm pretty sure Xander wanted this fight. But you guys probably know when was the last time Matchroom beat Toprank on a big fight?
Listen,
Top Rank's taking that risk because Top Rank knows what they're doing. This is a big risk, and I'm not saying Boots is going to destroy Xander Zayas, because Xander Zayas could fight, could box.
Yes,
interesting fight.
Getting better all the time too.
Boots is going to be the favorite. Top Rank knows that, they hardly ever lose to somebody, they
don't lose crossover promotion fights.
They don't
lose the PBC either. They beat everybody in crossover promotion. Like I think I think PBC may have beat him like once or twice out of like 20 fights. They beat everybody.
Correct. And I think Matchroom, same thing with Matchroom. They're great.
They're very smart in the way they make their moves in terms of, when it is time to pull the trigger. And Robert, you made a great point.
Can't wait to talk to Brad. Can't wait to talk to Brad to see what he thinks about the fight.
I'm going to have to give him a call after this.
So I can think of a few fights in recent memory that pitted Matchroom fighters against Top Rank fighters, and it wasn't that lopsided. I can remember Raymond Ford going over to Top Rank to beat Kolmatov for the WBA title. Matchroom won that one. But then Artur Beterbiev did hand Dmitry Bivol his first professional loss. Top Rank won that one. Then Matchroom, the Matchroom fighter, won the rematch because Dmitry beat him in the second fight. More recently, Mexico's own Emmanuel Navarrete, who's been promoted by Top Rank for a good number of years now, crossed over to Matchroom and beat the brakes off of their boy, Sugar Muñez. As stated, the rivalry between Matchroom fighters and Top Rank fighters is not as lopsided as, say, Top Rank versus PBC or Top Rank versus Golden Boy. In those matchups, Top Rank usually wins, but with Matchroom, it is a little bit more even if you're using history as any indicator of things to come to forecast the outcome. Though what Robert Garcia is touching on is that Xander Zayas is so obviously a fighter that Top Rank is invested in. They got a lot riding on this kid, that they wouldn't put him in this situation unless they were confident that he could win. And that's what stands out. That Xander doesn't necessarily need this fight. He wasn't obligated to have it. He wasn't under orders to fight Jaron Ennis. He's doing so willingly with Top Rank's blessing. And it's gotta be because they think he can win. They're confident. Something I've said in previous instances, sort of a running gag and a testament to Top Rank's vetting process. Even a journeyman, a gatekeeper on Top Rank, is a world champion someplace else. When you consider what Santi Leon did to Golden Boy Promotions' Alexis Rocha, Santi Leon never looked like much over there at Top Rank. But you unleash that same Santi Leon on a Golden Boy Promotions fighter, and you see what he did to him. You see how he beat the brakes off of Alexis Rocha. What I consider a testament to Top Rank's matchmakers. Sometimes while they're over there at Top Rank, they really don't look like much, but they're in tougher than people realize, and you don't realize it until they have to fight somebody else's fighter. Look at how Emmanuel just looked with Charlie Suarez. He looked human. He looked beatable. So that when he goes to fight the Matchroom fighter, their champion, he's a man possessed. He dominates every minute of every round in the fight. So how do we know that the same might not apply to Xander Zayas versus Boots Ennis? That Xander's been matched tougher than people give him credit for, but they don't realize it yet until he has to fight somebody else's fighter. If Xander Zayas goes in there and dominates Boots, who arguably has more of a buzz than he does, that would be quite the statement. A statement indeed, that Top Rank is allowing this fight to happen with their blessing, involving a fighter they have been so heavily invested in, communicates confidence. They must think he can win. And if you know anything about Top Rank, you know they know what they're doing. Why do you think they've been around so long?
He's not long for 154. It's great that he's gotten these two titles. He's going for the biggest fight possible, which is probably why, because they are probably driving to get into 160. And 160 is a pretty open division. I think Xander could do some real damage up there. But you take this fight, and like I said, you win, you're great, you're a superstar. But you lose, you move up, and you go look to jump into a title fight. Moving from a two-time champion at one weight, you go right into a title fight at 60. That's a good point from our guy here in Superchart. Mm-hmm.
Very possible, because if I'm not mistaken, Adames already said he's moving up to 168. So the WBC is going to be vacant. The WBO, WBO, IBA, WBA are open. They're open. The IBF is vacant also, if I'm not mistaken. No,
Janabek's getting stripped.
Janabek. And Janabek is WBO, isn't he?
I believe so, yes.
So the WBO is Puerto Rico, maybe sacrifice for the vacant WBO.
Good point.
I agree with Robert Garcia and Chris Algieri. I don't think Xander's long for this division either. I think if he wins, this will still be his final fight at junior middle. If he were to lose, he'd have to go back to the drawing board, move up in weight, just like they said. If he were to lose. But even if he wins, I think he's gonna move up. He don't go on an undisputed run after this. You see that Sebastian Fundora ain't none too bothered about Undisputed. They're over there still playing sides of the street politics.
It's gotta be on PBC.
And you see that Xander Zayas already tried to get Josh Kelly in the ring, and Josh Kelly, he wants it in his neck of the woods. Xander Zayas wants it in his. They negotiated to a stalemate. They were unable to make a fight, so that if Xander now beats Boots, it's just as big a win as unifying a title with one of the champions. It'll still be good optics. It'll be the perfect way to cap off his junior middleweight campaign, and if you've been watching Xander the last few years, he's put on considerable size. He's getting big. Guy's gotta be walking around 168, maybe even 170, to where continually getting down to 154, it's not getting easier. It's almost time to move up. What could have been another motivating factor in making this fight with Jaron Ennis, before he leaves one of the deeper divisions in the sport of boxing, he wants to have a fight with at least one of the somebodies that are there right now. Would have been a crying shame if his campaign would have come and gone and he never got Sebastian, or he never got Virgil, or he never got Boots. This guy's standing on business. And I believe that by year's end, the junior middleweight division will start to empty that talent pool. I believe that after this, Xander's gonna move up, but I also believe that Sebastian's about to do the same thing. The fight that he just had this weekend, I believe that's the last time we'll see him at 154. What creates an area of opportunity for the fighters that remain. Between Xander and Sebastian, that's 3 alphabet titles. If Boots loses and Xander moves up, he could just fight for one of Xander's bouts after that. Though let's not think too far into the future where things start to get immaterial. I believe this is Xander's last fight at junior middle. Where for Jaron Ennis, this is only his second, making this the most opportune time to take him on, while he's still new to the division and hasn't really been on the deep end. There have been a lot of high hopes when it comes to Jaron Ennis. A lot of people giving him a vote of confidence, vouching for what they think he will do, what they think he will be. He hasn't lived up to those expectations yet. A mere win over a Montestanionis, that ain't it.
Not enough.
This is a genuine 50-50 fight, where both guys have something working for them. But as stated, I really don't think Top Rank would have put Xander in this situation if they weren't supremely confident that he can handle himself and he can handle Boots. He can win. We'll see if he does in June, and we'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches.